This is southern Florida, the Everglades. The biggest wet pine, cypress, and mangrove trees, and sawed vegetation. A steady bit of water is absolutely vital to allow this tropical frontier to work smoothly. A mere few inches of water throughout are all the park needs. The water level is carefully managed by the Central and Southern Florida Flood Control District. I'm a biologist with the Florida Game and Freshwater Fish Commission, and we manage the wildlife. We are concerned with over 120 different species of birds and over 100 species of mammals, reptiles, and amphibians. But in the water, the ruling king of them all is our Everglades American alligator. Life and death in the glades, as in any ecological system, is a continual process. And no other animal plays so large a role in the balance of nature in this area than the alligator. The American people invented the national park concept, claiming that in a national park, the wildlife belongs to all of the people and should be protected and perpetuated as a basic natural resource. That kind of national trust and responsibility is placed in our hands. Because of the high prices once paid for alligator hides, $8 to $10 per foot, and the ease with which they could be slaughtered with a rifle, in Florida, in this century alone, several million gators have been killed, and we came mighty close to losing the American alligator forever. While I handle the camera, my fellow wildlife biologists, George Eddy and Jim Shortermeyer, are on a routine job to capture and tag some young gators for future identification. We've come a long way since the Everglades were declared a national park in 1949. Recent statistics indicate that we've saved the alligator from extinction, at least in this area. Hunting or collecting gators of any size or age is illegal, and part of our job is to be on the watch for poachers.
Well, let's tag. See if that tag.
We keep extensive records as to the date, the location, size, and approximate age of each gator we tag. Someday we may catch him again, and it will now be relatively easy to identify him. We can then study his growth, behavior pattern, and also determine what environmental circumstances influence any extensive movements. The tag is placed in the bony scute or armor plating of his tail. This part is very tough, and he feels no pain. When the Spanish explorers reached Florida's shores in the 16th century in search of gold or the fabled Fountain of Youth, they saw their first alligator and called it El Lagarto, meaning the lizard. The name stuck, and through the years, it became anglicized as alligator. During the first 8 or 9 years of his life, the alligator will grow about a foot a year. This fellow appears to be about 6 feet long or almost 6 years old. With our help and a lot of luck, he could grow to about 12 to 14 feet over an Everglades gator's lifespan of about 20 to 25 years. Nature endowed the gator with colorings that blend in with the foliage, kind of a natural camouflage. And as you can see, it's pretty effective. His eyesight and his hearing are quite good. His ears lie just back of his eyes, and both his ears and his nose are covered with flaps of thick skin that he closes when he goes underwater. People ask me, why make such an effort to save the alligator? And I say, why not? They are vital to the ecology of the Everglades. During the hot summer months, the rainfall is at a bare minimum, and the water table can drop to almost drought levels. Both this park and the wildlife living here desperately need water to keep from dying. Alligators instinctively dig water holes for their own survival. We know them as gator ponds, and they serve as a backup water supply source for the alligator as well as for the other wildlife. You might say that makes the gator something of a water management man. The gators find added value to these water holes when the other wildlife come looking for water, and some end up serving as tasty meals for the host. So for us who manage the wildlife, when the available water supply starts to dry up, we look for help from the flood control district officers and from the alligator, who is the key to the balance of nature. We stop to check the water level, and as I stand in ankle-deep water with the camera, George takes the measurement and Jim records the information. Seems to be just fine. An ironic natural twist in the glades is the alligator turnabout in the predator-prey relationship. For example, these are garfish, and they are predators of newborn baby gators. So are raccoons and some water birds. So baby gators play hide and seek for about 3 years to survive. And then the gators who escape reverse the relationship, and they become the sinister predators. When feeding on fish, an alligator will always swallow it head first, even if he must turn it around in his mouth. Garfish enjoy protein-rich sport fish like bass. So here in the Everglades, a large adult alligator population means good friends to sport fishermen, since gators keep the garfish population down to a minimum. We've planted a few fish along this bank to lure some big fellows out of the water and up to our cameras so that you can get a closer look at this direct descendant of prehistoric times. 230 million years ago, ancestors of the alligator shared this planet with the really big dinosaurs. He successfully adapted to the environmental changes, outlived them, survived the Ice Age, but he almost lost the battle for survival into the Space Age because of a predator called man. A female alligator will usually build her nest on land, but as close to the water as possible, and usually in the immediate vicinity of her den or waterhole. I guess it's maternal instinct, because once a female gator nests, she stays within the vicinity of the eggs to protect them at all costs. Raccoons enjoy the delicacy of gator eggs, as well as baby gators. And likewise, adult gators enjoy raccoons of any age. George, Jim, and I are out checking gator nests in various locations. This way we get a more knowledgeable picture of the gator's potential population increase. Mating usually takes place early in April. The nest building is accomplished in June entirely by the female. She uses whatever building material is at hand, in this case, sawgrass and mud. Using her back feet and tail, she will leisurely fashion a nest approximately 18 to 30 inches high with a base diameter of 4 to 5 feet. Normally the female is guarding the nest, and George and Jim would not be able to casually approach it the way they have. However, in this case, she was either frightened away by the sounds of our airboats, or else she's just out hunting for food. But we know she's not far away, and she doesn't take kindly to anyone tampering with her nest. So we'll go about our census taking quickly and carefully, and be on our way. This nest appears to hold about 20 eggs, which is normal, although I have seen as many as 40 and 50 in a nest. The shape of the alligator egg is different from any other in that it is perfectly round at either end and not egg drop shape, as is true of most eggs. The natural heat caused by the fermenting of the decaying sawgrass combined with the heat of the sun and the humidity make the gator nest into a natural incubator for the eggs. So it is not necessary for the female to sit on the nest for the purpose of hatching. It's important that George and Jim replace the eggs with the same side up as when they found them, or they might not hatch. The hatching process takes between 8 to 12 weeks, and I've come back to photograph this same clutch so that you can see the first signs of life. Nature endows a baby gator with a tiny, hard, pointed structure at the tip of his snout called a caruncle, which is used by the hatchling to break through the eggshell. At his birth, I'm always amazed to see 8.5 to 9 inches of gator break out of such a tiny egg. He weighs about 9 ounces. Once he's born, he's pretty much on his own and must seek safety immediately, which means a mad dash for deep water. If he's lucky, he makes it. Our records indicate that over 80% of baby gators don't make it through their first year of life. The first danger is from the air. Among others, the great blue heron sees the baby alligator as the perfect meal. Then there's the raccoon, snakes, turtles, the garfish. A terrible obstacle course to overcome during your first few weeks of life. From our existing records, we have a pretty good idea of where to look for the new generation. So during the hatching season, we catch baby gators by the handfuls for tagging and examination. As you can see, hunting baby alligators can hardly be considered a sport. Shooting a full-grown alligator isn't much more difficult. It's easy to see how poachers once robbed the Everglades of upwards of 40,000 gators a year. As I see it, here in the Everglades, we need live alligators far more than you need alligator luggage. But that's just one man's personal opinion. Until recently, countless thousands of baby alligators were just as easily gathered from the swamps and sold to tourists as souvenirs. This created a tremendous ecological imbalance. Once these pets began to grow, the tourists discarded them. All too often, I remember getting reports that these baby souvenirs reappeared as adult alligators in rivers, ponds, sewers, and even water hazards on golf courses. Overhead is an Everglades kite. Although there is a large colony of them in Latin America, we have less than 100, and he is very close to extinction in the Everglades. In its evolution, the beak of the bird adapted to only one type of food, the apple snail. There's a friend of mine, Gene Guerin, a wildlife biologist from the Flood Control District. We both have a role to play in the kite's chances for survival in the park. Each time we see any of them, we carefully note where, and we exchange the information. Since the apple snail requires water for its survival, and we've had several years of dry summers with very little rainfall, wherever the apple snail population dies off, the Everglade kites miss their meals and starve. It's in times like these that water management by the FCD and the backup water supply from the gator ponds directly affect this bird's very existence. checking the apple snail's limy egg capsules to increase our knowledge of the potential apple snail population. As biologists and wildlife managers, we're doing everything we can to preserve what nature left for us here. In the case of the Everglades kite, here in our park, perhaps that species' time has come to disappear. If so, we want it to go in a natural way, as so many others before. In the case of the American alligator, our management efforts have led to a resurgence in its population, and hopefully he'll be around for a while. Why not let them live?